All right, it is May wrap-up time. Technically, there's a day and a half left. I know I'm not going to finish any of the books I started. I mentioned them in the TBR on Friday, and they're going great, but I'm not rushing them, and, time is not endless. So let's get this going. My hair doesn't look like shit today. I don't have to do yard work. It's a perfect storm, and I read 10 things in May, and it was really good. It was a wide range of experiences, I feel like, but I think the theme I took away from this month is things are getting off the TBR that have been there for centuries, which just feels good. It feels really good, especially since, I had some books I didn't like this month, but for the most part, at least the ones that were on my TBR forever, except for one, it went pretty well. All right, so first we'll just start with a category that is my unpopular opinions. Because I have some good, some bad. Some I'm like, I like it, and most people don't, and vice versa. We'll start with the I don't like these. I won't harp on this too much, but Alien Clay, easily my least favorite book of the month, yeah. I've already talked about this in a Friday read, so if you really want me to wax poetic on why I have a disconnect with Tchaikovsky's sci-fi works, I just hated the main character of the story a lot. I have worked with people who are like this main character. I don't like working with them. He is so internally, this character, pretentious, and the amount of words we wasted on his internal thoughts about revolution made my eyes want to bleed. Okay? I didn't enjoy that. I think the sci-fi part is cool enough, and it almost got really cool, and then he did his sort of thing where it gets a little, it starts grounded and cool and mysterious, and then it gets a little hand-wavy in a way I don't like, to be spoiler-free. Now, I do think there are people who will like this book. I just recently took this book off a bookshelf and handed it to my friend and said, here, go read this, and he bought the book. I'm not anti-people reading this book. I'm anti-me having read this book. So what it's about is... It's an authoritarian regime that wants science to back its beliefs, not back the truth. I wonder, where he got this inspiration from. It couldn't be the now. Couldn't be. But, and one of these scientists is sent to this planet as an indentured servant to do stuff. And this planet has very interesting life forms, and we're discovering that, and also maybe working on a revolution. And you're basically just stuck in the head of this character. Now, if you like how this character thinks, if you vibe with the thematic musings that he will wax poetically on forever, you will probably have an okay time. I, on the other hand, am a hard sell on a revolution book at the best of times, and this did not impress me. I'm not saying I'm, the harbinger of truth of what a revolution book should bring to the table, but I have very specific tastes, and this is not it. This is not it. Especially with this main character at the helm. So... it was fine. It reminded me a lot, and retroactively really reminded me why I didn't like Children of Time. But I gave this to someone who loved the Children of Time trilogy, because I'm like, well, if that didn't bother you, this won't bother you. So have at. The next one, I told you guys that I'm heartless. I've told you this. I was scared about reading this book, even though I've read others of her books, but I've read The Spell Shop. And it's so okay. It probably could have been a higher rating. I don't even actually know what I'm putting on the screen. My instinct says 3 to 3.5 stars. It wasn't hard to read at all. I actually really like Sarah Beth Durst. I think she is super tight, keeps the pacing moving. She knows exactly how to narratively structure the stories she's telling. I've read her trilogy, fantasy trilogy, which I adore, The Queens of Blood. I think it's called Queens of Renthia, but the first one's The Queen of Blood. I adore it, okay? So this is not me not liking Sarah Beth Durst. But I do think a part of it is, if I'm going to be in a familiar story, this is very Hallmark movie type story, with a little bit of romance, but it's more someone gets to start a new life in a new place and meet people and get over their issues. It's very Lifetime movie, Hallmark movie type of thing here, with a fantastical setting and stuff like that. And I guess as problems we associate with a fantastical world. I will say, everyone who tells me that there's plots and stake, I kind of disagree, personally. I always felt anytime a plot controversy showed up, it felt contrived, and I didn't feel like I needed to be that stressed about it, and I was kind of right. But I will say, I think the problem with this book and me is, in her other works, Sarah Beth Durst writes characters I really love, okay? We have in her first book in Queens of Blood, you have a character who's just like not good at it, not good at magic, but she wants to work really hard at being good at magic. And that type of resilience and persistence I love in a character. In the second book, we have a reluctant hero, someone who's really powerful, who doesn't want to endanger her family, just wants to keep her head down. Super amazing character. Keela, the main character of this book, is not a bad character. In terms of craft, I think she's actually a very good representation of someone who's gone through trauma and doesn't trust people, and maybe she's neurodivergent, like all of that kind of blended together. I think she's well crafted. But here's my issue. A lot of her traits are things that annoy me a lot in real life. And in real life, though, I have to dig deep and find empathy and breathe and be patient with people, because that's what you do in real life. When someone is forcing their insecurities into your life and don't take what you say or do at face value, you have to breathe and meet them where they're at. This is a fictional character in a book. I don't have to give her that grace, and therefore, Keela, I don't like you, you're obnoxious, you don't have to be that obnoxious with your trauma. Like, I don't know. She was so annoying to me. And she's like a classic contemporary romance type character of like, no one could ever like me. They're just doing this because they want me to do blah, blah, blah. It's so repetitive and it's so cliche. And I know people actually go through life like this because I meet them, but it's exhausting in my real life. Like, I have to manage these types of emotions in people in my real life, and it exhausts me. Yes, I still love you. Why do I have to keep saying this? I've never not loved, it's like, ugh. So for that reason, this was really hard for me to like. I love her plant side companion. I love the town. I love her mission in this story. There's so much that I think is actually really good. But also, I don't like that it was classified as romantasy because yes, there's a romance, but it's really like, you lift the romance out of this book, it's the same book. It's not that different. It's not about the romance. So I couldn't even get distracted like I would in a contemporary romance if I have this obnoxious main character by the romance. And so it's more akin to Legends and Lattes. But Legends and Lattes, I really liked the main character. Like, that's the difference here. So maybe I'm not heartless. Maybe I just don't have empathy towards characters who have traits that annoy me in real life. But I don't think that's a problem. Because again, in real life, I am patient. For real people, I am patient. For book people who do not know I exist because they are fictional, I can get a little annoyed. So it's a fine book, but I didn't love it, which is a bummer, because I do have an arc for the sequel. So we'll see if I read that. I also still need to talk about this book with my friends who all love it, because again, I am heartless, absolutely heartless. Now, the one that I have an unpopular opinion in the opposite direction is Authority by Jeff Vandermeer. I mean, this still doesn't make me, like, love the series, but it retroactively makes me like Annihilation more. And again, we're getting a theme in this section. I really like Control. If you don't remember, in Annihilation, the main character is called the Biologist. I don't like her. But a lot of my issues with her are addressed in this book in a way that makes me go, okay, so at least there was intentionality. You didn't actually believe she was a good scientist. That's cool, because she's not. Like at all. And I also feel like Control's paranoia and his untethering from the world was more interesting to me. And I enjoyed Control's issues. I enjoyed seeing it from the bureaucratic side. It was like a little bit like Severance for me, I guess. And again, I was okay that I don't have all the answers. Actually, the book, I think, does something quite clever in a kind of suspenseful way where there's a moment where our character kind of learns something that happens in the first expedition. But I still don't know what that is, really, because Jeff Vandermeer kind of knows that anything I could think of is probably scarier than what he could write down. And so we just get his reactions to it in like a few moments. I think it was done really artfully. I actually re-listened to that chapter to make sure I didn't miss anything. So yeah, I think that I'm actually pretty excited to move on to, I think the next one's Acceptance. Because, yeah, and I have so many of my friends who love Annihilation, who just read or reread Annihilation, who DNF'd Authority. Because, yeah, I told you I was going to be not like other girls about it, and here I am. I liked it. It was pretty good. So now, going from unpopular opinions, let's go to surprises. And these are not surprises because I thought they'd be bad, but they were legit like, wow, I really like this. I was not anticipating such a thing, especially because both of these books I hadn't heard any reviews about, and I had no idea what they were about. So the first one is The Scholar and the Last Fairy Door. And Roger, from Rogers Reads, I know you said you told me about this book. I do not have memories of that place. We say this to each other a lot. But I believe that you believed that I would like it, and you were right. So I read this because a bunch of my friends in our kind of, it's primarily UK book influencer group chat. I don't even know if that's the right word for it anymore, but it started in 2020. And we occasionally do like some book club stuff together. And this was our next book. I don't know who picked it. Actually, I think our friend Kayla picked it, who used to have a booktube channel called Crack Into a Good Book. I don't think she's posted in years, but I think it might still exist. And so I picked it up. No expectations. Again, no idea what it's about. The audiobook is pretty great. I have also not read anything by this author, who I do think is fairly prolific. Like, I think there's another book coming out this year or something like that by them. But this is a standalone about our main character, Clover, who... It takes place in like the 1920s, 1930s era, which again, I think that's a fascinating historical fiction point that people don't dig into enough. So I was excited that this dug into that. And so she's in the United Kingdom, I believe. Her brother has gone to the First World War, but he comes back changed because of fairy magic that shouldn't have existed, that showed up in the war, because there's a magical world and it's, you know, in parallel to ours, but it's hidden. And so now she has insight into it. And she wants to go to the school and learn the magic. And so she does. And it's about the people she meets and the friendships they have and how they get tested. And it was very engaging. And it has a lot of really well-crafted characters. So I really like Clover. I think she's fantastic. I really think it's also really well-crafted because it takes you through a couple, I think a decade, maybe a decade or two, because she does go to school and it's like university age, like 19, 18. And then you do see her in her professional life in the second half of the book. So it's not just like 1 year in a school, like this is over a few years. And you do see how people start off as children and where they end up and the decisions they make and why they make the decisions and why are systems the way they are? What is exploitative? Why do we keep these resources allocated to a select few? It has all of those themes wrapped around a very engaging and well-paced story. I don't want to say too much about what the story is, but I guess essentially after World War I, when that fairy magic was used, they locked away the fairy side. And so people couldn't make fairy doors anymore. But there is the last fairy door and Clover and her friends and the shenanigans they get into and the repercussions of that moment and why they do it. And I thought it was really well done. I was very impressed. I would read more by this author. It's not my favorite school story. That's still The Incandescent this year, but it was pretty good. And then the next one is a novella I read. And again, I'm not a novella girly, right? Novellas and me, I keep picking them up. I keep thinking I'll like them. And I'm usually like, that was fine. But Not Too Bold is pretty great, okay? So I think next year we're getting a full-length novel by this author. And I'm incredibly excited. She's a Brazilian, Argentinian author. I believe the original of this was written in Portuguese and translated and adjusted by the author. I think she did the translation herself because she is a translator. And this is just like such a nice fairy tale. It's a dark fairy tale. We all know I love a dark fairy tale. It definitely comes with some of those trappings where you just have to like go with it, let it take you. It's also pretty gothic. So we have this house that is owned by this ancient one who is very spider-like. That's another caveat. If you don't like spiders, don't read this book. Like, there's a lot of spider imagery. We are picking up spiders a lot. We are consuming spiders. The main character's love interest-ish is a spider. Like, a lot of spiders. Now, and I think it makes sense because, like, I guess I don't know where in Brazil she's from, but in, like, northern South America, there's a boatload of tarantulas. Like, so many. And tarantulas, they're not that harmful, but when left in the wild, they can get really big. Okay? Don't Google it if you're scared of spiders, but they can get pretty big. And so she works at this house. Her whole life she's known that she's going to stay there and work there. And sometimes the master of the house gets hungry or angry and eats the help. So that's how the story starts. And so she gets quickly promoted to have to work with her. It's about this relation they form. It's very... my neighbor's driving their car. It's not the loudest he's been lately, though. That's at 4 a.m. Anyways. And so there's like a little bit of the Beauty and the Beast trope-ish here where like, I don't know, just like their rapport and how they talk to each other, I really enjoyed. Also, the underlying plot is there's this mystery. Something was stolen from the master of the house. And so they were trying to figure out who stole it and why while not getting eaten. And like, it's short, it's sweet, it doesn't overstay its welcome. I was completely enraptured with it. It just took 2 hours. I sat down, I read it, and I was like, that was great. So I'm very excited for a novel. Like, it's still a novella. I still am not giving this 5 stars because it's not like a 5-star feeling, but it was definitely more than fine. All right, next up, let's talk about Caribbean books. I read 2 Caribbean SFF books this month. I mean, I'm calling one Caribbean because it's by like an author who part of the story tales take place in a Caribbean island, but most of it took place in Boston. But regardless, we'll start with the one that, again, it doesn't take place in the Caribbean. It takes place in Toronto, but it's by Nailo Hopkinson. And so this is Brown Girl in the Ring. And this is a book that's been on my TBR. Oh boy, since 2021, 2020, since I read Midnight Robber, which was in 2020. So yes, when I talk about a book that's been on my TBR for a long time, I haven't owned the physical book for that long. I'm pretty sure I only got the physical book around 2022, maybe? That's when Evie sent it to me, because it matched the color copy I have for Midnight Robber, and I just like that art style. And so this is really cool. I really liked this one. So we're in Toronto. It is in the future. It's a dystopian state where Toronto itself has been left to be governed by gangs and just individuals. Like the mayor of Toronto and everyone, like the Toronto governing body has left to the fringes. So I guess, so the half wheel spoke that is Toronto, the greater Toronto area, that's where everyone is now. And the actual inside part of that ring is where we take place in our story with our main character, who has just given birth to a child and is discovering she has the spiritual connection that she doesn't want. And it's really hard to describe this story because a lot of Nailo Hopkinson's work, I feel like, is you go with the flow with it. But what I will say that I really liked about it is I truly always understood what was happening, and I loved the interconnectivity of it all. There's a lot of interconnectivity in this work. I also just really appreciated getting an inside view into like magic and culture and spirituality that I truly don't get to engage with very often. I can't remember all the words for all the creatures and everything, but it was really interesting how everything worked, how all the rituals worked, and also especially since our main character is really fighting back against this gift that she's been given and doesn't want the repercussions of that gift. She just wants to be safe. She's also fighting with this thing where the father of her child, she still loves, but knows she can't be with him. He has an addiction. He's involved with the gangs. And there's this higher level plot of the gang leader has been tasked with a government official outside of Toronto with acquiring a heart from someone who is the right blood type and make sure that that person is killed but kept alive enough for a good heart transplant. Like that's explained in like the 3rd page of the book. And so this is the nefarious crime that is trying to happen while we have this human story at its center, because she works at her grandmother's shop to help people in the neighborhood. And it's all a barter system. It's just a very lived-in situation. The setting is just viscerally clear, I feel like. And so I really enjoyed it. My biggest issues with Midnight Robber was that it had some really graphic scenes that even, like, I really think people need to read trigger warnings for Midnight Robber, because it's not, it's bad. It has some really bad graphic scenes. I think it's done with care. I think it's necessary for the story it's telling, but it doesn't mean everyone's going to be able to read it. And also, Midnight Robber is written almost entirely in dialect, which can be really hard, because like this planet that she created has like a blending of a bunch of different Caribbean dialects, which is really cool from like a world building place. It's really difficult if you're not used to reading dialect. And there's a little dialect in Brown Girl in the Ring, but it was mostly pretty straightforward, or I've just gotten better at reading it. I'm just glad I finally read it. It was really good. It was pretty easy to read on my vacation too. Like I didn't read it super fast, but like when I was by the pool, it wasn't like hard to read 20 or 30 pages at a time. And it's short. It's a really short book. It's like 280 pages, 290. And then the next one, No Gods, No Monsters, which I just got an arc for the 3rd book in this series today, which has me excited. Although I think I want to read the lessons next, and then We Are the Crisis, and then of course the 3rd book. So this author is from St. Thomas Island, I think. And I think actually the lesson takes place on that island, which is why I'm excited to get to it, because I think it's at least in its marketing, it's like the first book written on that island for speculative space. And I'm like, that's cool, because I love reading books from country perspectives, and you know, that's just my thing. I love doing that. So No Gods, No Monsters. First of all, it starts off with a confusing narrative framework. So am I in? I'm in. It's me. Of course I'm in, right? Like this is not surprising to anybody. So there's too many characters, but I love them all and I love the interconnectivity. Again, a lot like Nalo Hopkinson, there's a lot of interconnectivity here. I love piecing the puzzles together and then seeing the whole picture and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. The whole purpose of this book is we're spending a year primarily in the Boston region. And what happens is that a lot like the Scholar and the Last Fairy Door, there is a paranormal world and there's our real world, and neither the two shall cross, right? Like, the paranormal world knows the normal world exists, but the normal world does not know. But what happens in this book is there's an inciting incident, and now there's a question of more people realizing maybe there are monsters. You know, maybe there are magical beings. And it's not just maybe there are vampires and werewolves, which is our kind of classic paranormal thing. It's also every culture has their spiritual, cultural thing. And all of those things are viable options, which is so cool. And our narrator has a very unique power that you learn about as you read, and it's cool. It's very cool. It starts off quite mundane, and then as you get going, it gets more and more fantastical. And in the world building is just like my favorite kind of act of discovery / I love being in Boston. Like, I love Boston. Boston's great. So that was also very fun, just traveling around there, seeing how the stories intertwined. And also there is that mystery element of like, what caused this fracturing? And you kind of learn about that. So the whole point of this first book, I feel, is looking at how the world at large responds to the unveiling of the other side. Do they believe it long term? Do they not? What does that cause to happen to other individuals? What do our characters specifically do? It's both global and central. And I really enjoyed learning about it, so I'm excited to keep going with We Are the Crisis. I read No Gods, No Monsters all in one day. Mainly because I had a 9-hour flight, but I read it all in one day. And now, let's get into, I guess, I'm calling them comfort reads because I feel like I picked up all of these books with the hope that they would be easy reads, and they were lovely. One, I know that this, in nonfiction, as a comfort read, might feel weird, but John Green is someone who I like watching their like Vlogbrother YouTube channel. And honestly, I really liked reading The Fault in Our Stars when I was in college. I think that's when I read it. I haven't read a lot of John Green, so it feels weird to put him here, but like I picked up Everything is Tuberculosis, hoping for, yes, straightforward, communicative, science, like it's gonna just feel good. And it did. Like, you know, he really talks about actionable steps. He really talks about the steps that have been taken and what we can see. Like, he's really trying to bring awareness to tuberculosis, how prevalent it still is, and how we can and have been fighting it. Like, he's not very doom and gloom about it. He is very like, we can do it. Now, granted, he wrote this before the United States government took away a lot of funding that allows a lot of what happens in this book to happen. And I think he's on the record saying he's going to add a chapter to the paperback in reference to that, because one of the hardest things in the United States to do is convince people why we should be giving money to foreign countries. Like, you know, we're not taking care of our unhealthy here in the United States. Why should we take care of the unhealthy in other countries? And it's a nuanced discussion, but it's not, people don't like nuance, so the internet, it doesn't happen very well. So I'm sure he's going to make a chapter on that for that book, but it just is, as someone who just likes to see science communicated in a way that's accessible to all, I just enjoyed that. And then we've got Paladins Grace by T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher is a comfort read for me. I just love reading her books. This is not a surprise. This one, I like our two leads. I think they're fun. They both borderline on the case of like, no one could ever love me. I shouldn't love anyone. I'd be a boredom, but it's not actually that excessive or bad. Honestly, the thing that like probably stopped me from loving this book is a lot of the conflict centers around courtroom scenes, and I just get stressed with courtroom scenes, okay? I don't believe justice systems will work by design. Like, if left alone, I don't actually think justice systems will 100% produce justice. They do a lot of the times. It's not like the worst system, but a lot of things can slip through the cracks. A lot of people can wrongfully be put in prison. Like, I get stressed. I get stressed with courtroom scenes and jails. So that was like a part of the end of this book. But I love a paladin who knits socks. Like, that's amazing. So I'm excited to keep going in that series and read. And that was another one of those books where it's like, oh my God, this has been on my TBR for like ever. Like, I think Heather was starting to get on my case in the comments of my videos. Like, oh, look, Paladins Grace again. It's like, yes, and I read it. It's happened. It's happened, okay? And then the last one, and I don't know if I've given anything 5 stars this month. I feel like I've had a lot of 4.5s, but this was a reread and an automatic 5 stars. The Golden Compass. I adored physically rereading this a lot. And so what am I supposed to do? Pretend like I don't love his dark materials? I adore his dark materials. I love how much respect is given to children, both as characters and as readers of his works. I love the world building. I love the themes. I really like that it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's really tight. It's really narratively, like, intentional. And so, I don't know if you can hear the sirens in the background, but apparently sirens need to be happening right now. But I'm at the end of the video, so we're just going to end it here. What did you read in May? What was a book that you agreed or disagreed with me? I'm sure it's The Spell Shop or something like that, or Authority, in the comments down below. And if you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, let's leave a bunny for Authority. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.